On today's show, the San Diego Padres, at the very minimum, avoid a sweep against the Texas Rangers after their offense came out blasting. I mean, they just started blasting. As well as a pretty good performance from some of the starting pitchers, especially the bullpen, and also all-star announcements, who made the cut, who should have made the cut, and then who could still potentially make the cut in the future. All that and more. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Thursday, July 4th. Happy 4th of July, Independence Day to all those who celebrate, and frankly, even to those who don't. As always, I'm your host with sometimes occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Reyes. You can follow me on Twitter at Javapeno, the best handle in the game, JAVIIPENO, or at LO_Padres for updates on the show and poll questions. And then you can check out my work over at Just Baseball, where I write about baseball, not just only the Padres, a bunch of stuff there, as well as my new podcast, Baseball versus the World, about general, fun, silly, evergreen baseball topics. In today's episode, guys, we are recapping last night's game between the Padres and the Rangers, just giving a couple thoughts on it, because there was actually more to talk about in this game. Monday's game, or what was it? Hold on. Tuesday's game was just very much like, okay, so Dylan Cease was bad, and that's it, right? Like, there was nothing else to really recap from that game, but we actually have stuff to talk about this time. And then we're going to talk about all-star voting, especially in the National League, what went down, what was announced, all the goodness vibes that was, that emerged from those announcements that we'll talk about later. But first, guys, let me just tell you, this episode of Locked On Padres is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. Folks, the Padres bounced back big time. And one of the things that we talked about on Wednesday's episode was there's still a fear of this team, because what have they done time and time again? Despite all the numbers, despite all the metrics, despite all the great performances, they tend to have these really good stretches that are almost entirely upended by getting swept by teams. And usually it's teams that you should beat, in theory. And I'm not saying that. I still overall think that the strength of schedule thing is just not a good way to view things. I think it might matter in football. I think it might matter there. I think maybe if you're maybe at the end of the year, if you're pushing to a playoff spot, if you happen to be facing your division rival, that matters. But to me, my thing is just, you got to beat the bad teams. You got to beat the good teams. I think the Padres oftentimes flirt and show you how dominant they can be against some of the best teams in baseball, against the Braves, against the Dodgers, against the Royals, against the Brewers. They can play really well. But what have they done a lot this year? They followed that up with a sweep that almost unends everything, and that's why we keep making jokes about, they're above 500, they're back below 500, whatever. I did the Watchmen meme with Dr. Manhattan on the moon recently about that. But never fear, because at the very minimum, it is not a sweep, and that is a big deal. I really do think that's a big deal. The Padres winning last night's game by an immaculate score of 6-4. Shout out Nintendo. The Padres, well, their offense showed up this time. And while I don't really think that, that the Monday night performance, or the Tuesday, I keep getting my days mixed up, the Tuesday night performance should be entirely excused, I still think that overall, like, this offense has been so good, and frankly, it must be really dejecting and depressing to come out of that game and say, hey, Cease is our best starter in theory, and he comes out and gets absolutely torched by a lineup that didn't feature Corey Seager, and by guys that aren't particularly amazing. Like, why is Leody Suarez hitting balls off you at like 110 miles per hour, right? Like, that's just very weird. And they won, as I was saying, because this is baseball. What happens? The Padres win the start that they were not expected this to win, and that is Adam Mazur's start. In this game, he goes 4 innings, giving up 4 earned runs on 7 hits. But we have a nice, exciting development, guys. He finally struck out more batters than he walked. 0 walks on the night, which was great, and 4 strikeouts. To me, the only thing to take away from this is that he didn't give up any walks. And I think that's a big deal for a young pitcher that we're still trying to hope gets better. Yes, he gave up some runs, bottom of the 3rd inning. He started off really good. His slider, especially at the beginning, was looking really good. Leody Suarez gets a sac fly. Corey Seager hits a double. He's back in the lineup. Josh Smith gets a double as well. But then after that, you get the Jonah Heim sack fly. A lot of sack fly dumb stuff. So at least he wasn't getting as killed as he usually has been getting, right? Giving up big home runs, giving up balls that are just absolutely smoked. The hardest hit balls of the day almost entirely belong to Padres. Aside from a Nathaniel Lowe single and a Wyatt Langford single, and then the Adolis Garcia home double, not too bad of a performance from our guy, right? Like overall, yes, he gave up some tough contact and maybe got a little bit lucky. Adolis Garcia hit one that was, hit pretty hard, but it turned out to be a ground out. Even still, the hardest hit balls, this isn't like yesterday. And frankly, that shows you why, while I am, I'm trying to be optimistic that Cease bounces back. Yesterday, Cease, all the hardest hit balls were from the Rangers, and they were like really hard hit balls that were going either for home runs or doubles or extra bases, and it was against players that typically don't hit the ball hard. So that's why I'm worried about Cease. It's not like he got crushed by Garcia. It's not like, I know that, and by the way, Adolis Garcia has not been as good this year, but even still, it's not like he crushed him. It's not like Marcus Semien crushed him. Frankly, it's not like Nathaniel Lowe was the only one that crushed him. It was also these role bench players for an offense that has been really mediocre this year. So that makes me concerned. So happy for Adam Mazur showing up, doing good stuff. Again, I think that his slider looked really, 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 really good in this game. In fact, 15 swings, generating 6 whiffs on his slider. And then guess what? Only 1 whiff combined on all of his other pitches. So he still needs to work on that. The fastball, the sinker, curveball, and changeup. Although I know he doesn't throw the changeup too much. He needs to just perfect those pitches more. That way, he's not just relying on teams to get fooled by his repertoire like the Rangers were last night and swing at sliders outside the zone and all that stuff. But he did have some really impressive strikeouts over those 4 innings. He had 4. Not much else you can hope for, right? At least he didn't get absolutely bombarded. Obviously, he's still not very good. Still a 7.52 ERA. That is very, very bad. I'm just reminding everyone, one of the reasons this guy's on the team, frankly, the only reason this guy is on the team is just because of the Musgrove and Darvish injuries. So it's not like this is some dude that was like definitely ready and definitely a high upside prospect, the same way a Dylan Lesko and a Robbie Snelling are high upside prospects, according to basically everybody. But this game, it wasn't just that. It was also that the Padres got a lot out of their bullpen, namely one Sir Yuki Matsui. I don't know how many times I have to say it. Yuki Matsui is okay. Does he have some annoying stuff? Of course. His whip is still at 1.29 compared to his 3.38 ERA, but those are solid numbers, and the whip shows you that he does walk some batters and he does miss with location, but he has not given up a run low-key since June 4th against the Angels, and then the previous start when he unfortunately blew the save against the Royals. I do think that Yuki he's been one of those guys where his blow-ups have been so bad that it's undone. How overall, for a guy coming from Japan, making this his first season, has been pretty solid, all right? Beginning of the year, basically gives up no runs, even though we knew it was going to relapse, right? Like he was walking way too many batters compared to the strikeouts. But even still, he's just been a lot better this year, and he deserves a lot of credit for that because he's had, like I said, really bad blowups in bad spots, right? But I think that the big thing, and one of the things we've talked about, is that Yuki's pitches, especially his secondary ones, that split finger, it's really, really good, guys. Like, it's not a fluke, some of his secondary pitches. He just needs to find his location a little bit better. And also, even when he's getting hit, he doesn't get torched for, like, crazy home runs usually, right? Like, he's not that type of guy. And I like that he can generate some ground balls, right? He doesn't give up the hardest hit contact in the world. This isn't like a Dylan Cease type of issue. Instead, it's the fact that he's walking too many batters, and I think that they know, just watch out for that split finger. But let me tell you, that split finger has been so good that he deserves a lot of credit. Split finger fastball, opponents are hitting 171, and the expected stats that they have him at 182, and for his slider, they're hitting 200, right? Like, and against his sweeper, which he started using a little bit more recently, they have not gotten a hit yet, right? And it's not like the expected stats are all that high on that either. So that's the big thing. All he has to do is find location. I really think that that's it. He generates so many whiffs. Guys, he has a 42% whiff rate on his split finger, a 43% whiff rate on his slider, just a 13% on his fastball. That's the problem. Can he nip the corners and just use that as a pitch? that just you're just not walking batters. As long as he's not doing that, he's doing great. Anyway, I forgot to mention, by the way, yeah, last night, 1 1/3 innings, only giving up a hit and a walk and getting 4 strikeouts. He's been getting strikeouts more recently. We've seen an uptick in that, which has been really, really exciting. And he hasn't been walking too many batters. Like I said, Yuki has been very solid, hasn't given up a run since June 4th, and has been solid ever since then. I still like the way they're deploying him, though. I think that's the biggest thing here. They're using him in non-high leverage scenarios. We've talked about this before as well. His high leverage stats have been disastrous this year, like genuinely bad. And I like that overall. The Padres have seen that, they've reacted, and they put him in positions where he can better succeed, frankly, right? Like that's what we're kind of looking at here. In high leverage situations, he's given up 7 earned runs this year across 6 2/3 innings, right? So he's been bad in that regard. Non-high leverage, though, he's been better. Give him some time. Have the, back into the bullpen, your Estradas, your Suarez's, your Morhons. Those are the guys that you're expecting to be able to shut down the best of the order. For now, Matsui's just been solid, and he deserves a lot of credit. As I almost knocked down Pikachu, my boy. But we're not done yet, everybody. We got to talk a little bit about the Padres offense and a couple more things out of the bullpen in just 1 second, guys. But first, I want to talk to you about the legendary, the indomitable, the phenomenally caregiving Robin Hood sponsor type of thing, dare I say, and that is our good friends over at Ibata. Here's the thing: sandals, sunscreen, snacks for the kids, maybe a beach umbrella, whatever it is. What do they have in common? You're probably buying a ton of them this summer, again, for the millionth time, because it is summer. But don't stress about the cost. If you use Ibata, you can get cash back on all of your purchases when you stock up on all of your summer essentials. And maybe if you're going to be grilling, right? Maybe you're going to be grilling. It's 4th of July after all. I think a lot of people are fans of the old grilling. Well, guess what? Supplies needed for that, they can help you out as well. It is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies and even toys. So you can make for sure, you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibata user earns about on average, just at minimum, about $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or maybe even a fancy dinner, or maybe even a Padres ticket, you know what I mean? So go check out Ibata. They are here for you. It is offering our listeners $5 just for trying out Ibata by using the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download for free the Ibata app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Ibata, IBOTTA, in the Google Play or App Store. Use that code LOCKEDONMLB. You won't regret it. Go check it out. And just like that, we are back, thriving and vibing here on the Locked On Padres podcast, guys. Your team every day. Follow me on Twitter if you'd like, at Javapeno, JAVIIPENO, and also send me your questions there. I've appreciated everybody sending me more questions lately. That's been a lot of fun, and especially answering them. And just some kind words, by the way. I want to just shout out the people who've been, giving me kind words. Brad Brown, you know who you are. Shouts to you, my friend. Shouts to you. Thank you for the nice DM. Let's talk a little bit about the rest of the game, though, guys. The Padres offense showing up, and in some cases from an unlikely source, right? First of all, Luis Arraez in this game strikes out twice, but he does get a single and an RBI in this one. That was very dope. The RBI coming after, what was it? Yes, in the top of the 6th inning to kind of bring the Padres back. That was great. Tying the game. Again, Arraez just... him tying the game there, and I don't know what it was about last night's game that was like, man, they really need this one. You know what I mean? If you can steal one when you have Adam Mazur on the mound, that's a big deal. I stand by my belief, and that belief is that Arraez is the type of player where I just think that over the course of a full season, I have questions about how much value he's going to have because of the bad defense, because of the fact that he's not slugging, because of the fact that he has not been hitting to such a degree that he was last year, where he had like a mid-800s OPS. I do worry about that, but overall, what's so exciting about him is the fact that this is the type of dude that you want on a playoff roster. I'm telling you, he's the type of guy that you have up there and you're like, oh no, he just got crazy hot for like a few games and just always gave us a hit at the top of the order. I can see it. It's really cool. But anyway, too much harping on our boy Luis Arraez, because there was more offense in this game, obviously. It started off with our man Manny Machado, actually, in this game. Kicking things off with a home run in the first inning, 2-run shot with Jay Cronenworth on base. there's not much more to say about Machado. Like I talked about on Monday's episode, chasing more pitches outside the zone, but he's making contact with them, and also he's hitting more for more power, as evident from last night. He's just been so much better, and he's finally delivering what they've needed. And he's been so much better lately that you're wondering, can we just chalk up those first 2 months to like you were basically just on the IL? That's what it feels like. And if he's making up for lost time, I'll take it. Absolutely, I'll take it. Manny Machado in this game, just the 1 hit, but it is a 2-run home run. And then also our boy, our god, our man who has been so damn good lately. After the bottom of the third, and on the bottom of the fourth, with all the runs that the Rangers scored, Jackson Merrill singling to left field, allowing Jake Cronenworth and Jurickson Profar to score. Yes, don't worry, Jurickson Profar got back to his hitting ways after just a devastating performance the other day, where he just didn't get a hit. Unbelievable. We were so disappointed in Profar. How dare you not get a hit for the 18th day in a row, right? Unbelievable. But he made up for it. Of course, I'm joking. 2 for 4 in this game with a walk and a stolen base. The guy's just a hitting machine. Gosh, it's amazing. And don't get me wrong, yeah, like the reason why, if you're wondering why he's not as up there as other players who have the on-base skills of him, is because he's not having for nearly as much power, right? Like, it's not like he's lacing doubles every 3 seconds. His big thing has been plate discipline and also a little bit of power. Like, this is a guy who might still finish with 20 home runs. His final slash line might look something like, 290, 380, type of on-base percentage stuff, and that's amazing, especially for a guy you got for $1 million. Great stuff from him. And also love to see the stolen base. Just love to see him throw that out there, just as a little treat. Also in this game, Donovan Solano going 2 for 5. Jackson Merrill going 2 for 5 with that huge double as well, and a stolen base on top of that. I've been a little bit surprised every now and then when Jackson Merrill doesn't run. He does have 10 steals on the year, but there's just been times where I'm a little surprised that you haven't been running more, because he's fast and he's got a good attitude about it and good reaction time. So I'm a little bit surprised by that. Ha-Seong Kim, though, really turning on the wheels. The Padres stole a lot of bases yesterday, guys. 5, in fact. 2 of them coming from one Sir Ha-Seong Kim. 1 for 3 in this game, gets on base, steals 2 bases, second and third, and that's why you had the Jackson Merrill single that brought him home. Just really, really good stuff. I love that. And even Jake Cronenworth got a stolen base. Just Padres on the base paths. And I don't think that that's necessarily the biggest aspect of having a good team. You don't have to have super speed and all that when it comes to stealing bases. You need speed, but not necessarily 1,000 stolen bases. I think that if you look at teams in Major League Baseball, the teams that lead in stolen bases, that's not usually a good a predictor of success, right? Like, you need to have speed in general. And I think that there's a difference between speed and scoring on singles and stealing bases. Anyway, I don't know why I'm going down this rabbit hole and tangent, but overall, just really good stuff from the Padres. And then, like I said, the unlikely source, David Peralta, hitting a home run, allowing Donovan Solano to score in the top of the 7th inning. And then the Padres bullpen, like I said, was great last night. Morejon going 1 2/3, no hits, no walks, no runs, just a strikeout. Jeremiah Estrada has a little bit of trouble for a second. A little bit of a trouble for just 1 second, right? He only goes 2/3, but he gets both batters. He does give up the 1 hit, but he gets 2 strikeouts. Hopefully Estrada got out whatever that was out of his system, and he's going to be returning to that second, head of the Hydra that is the Padres bullpen, hopefully, right? So he's been good. And then Robert Suarez comes in, gets 2 strikeouts, over 1 1/3 innings. Isn't it great having a closer that doesn't mind going more than 3 outs? Isn't that great? That's pretty cool, right? I think that's pretty cool. So great stuff from the Padres. And then David Peralta hitting that home run. He needed that. He's been easily one of the only, not one of the only, but he's been probably one of the worst Padres batters this year. 590 OPS on the season. He's played in 31 games. He's been struggling, and someone actually joked, for those who don't know Tommy on Twitter, joked he used up all of his good stuff when he was on the Diamondbacks and he killed the Padres, right? But he finally paid it back. I don't know if this is going to be a David Dahl type of moment, and what I mean by that is he just basically has one nice moment, and then that's it, and then eventually he's going to get sent down. I think he was 3 centimeters, 6 degrees separated potentially from everyone being we'll pack your bags and we'll take you to the airport with David Peralta. He's just been bad, and more importantly, it's not necessarily that he's not getting hits. It's his at-bats look terrible. He'll have 3 strikes where they basically go down the middle, and he has a weak foul ball. The game from about a week ago comes to mind. Just not very good. And for a guy who's been a decent hitter throughout his career, not great there. I will say, though, there's not much I was expecting from Peralta, right? At least unlike a Solano, right? Like a Donovan Solano. David Peralta wasn't good last year, like 675 OPS. Like it looks like it finally has come to an end. His ability to be just a solid hitter. So I'm not surprised by it. I still think that they need like a replacement, and I think they will get one. I think they'll move things around. I think they might get a new bat in the trade deadline. You'll have Bogarts coming back soon as well. I just think that creates new opportunities and new possibilities, and I think it'll change. But David Peralta, regardless, might have just been the David Dahl moment of this year. You had your one thing for us, and you'll vanish into the night. David Dahl, for those who don't remember, tied the game shockingly with a home run last year, and then Ha-Seong Kim walked it off in the next one. It was just totally unexpected, and same thing for Peralta. So shouts to him. This Padres offense, man, it's been amazing. And also, as Tommy mentioned, the Padres have been winning games with Randy Vasquez and Adam Mazur even when they have bad starts, which is often. That's right. It is very often in terms of the Padres, as he tweeted yesterday. I love citing this guy, by the way. He always has good stats. The last few tweets, the last few starts for Manny Vasquez and Adam Mazur, they've given up 7, 6, 9, 9, 6 runs in games respectively, and the Padres have won all of those games. So that's how good this Padres offense is. They pick up from their pitchers. I don't want to rely on that fully, especially if this team wants to make a run in the postseason. You're going to need a little bit more than just a crazy offense that always comes through. And I think they can. I think they could do stuff at the deadline to make it better. But this Padres offense is great, and that's why even when they're not winning, it's just so much more entertaining. Guys, it's just fundamental. We know this. It's much more fun to watch a team with a great offense and bad defense versus a great defense and a bad offense, right? Go ask Jets fans how much fun they've had watching the Jets. The Giants fans. Go ask every now and then the Seattle Mariners fans, even right now when they're good, how annoying it is that their offense stinks. They've got nobody in that Mariners lineup, man. Like, none of their typical good players have been good. From what I understand in the Mariners, which is why I'm not scared of them this next upcoming week. But shouts to the Padres offense. They were awesome, and shouts to the Padres in general. I really cannot emphasize enough. I know it sounds weird, but that was a big win, right? You got rid of any of the vibes of, oh God, here we go again. We're going to get swept and undo all the good stuff we've been doing. You got rid of that immediately. You picked up your young pitcher who's been struggling. I love that. And for anybody saying, you know, Vasquez and Vasquez, they have to go. Okay, well, who do you want to replace them, guys? Like, you're going to have bad players. Like, you can't just unlimited keep getting good players. So that's my thing. And again, you have Snelling potentially in the hole, maybe in the second half. We'll see if they do that. But folks, we're not done yet with today's episode. We got to talk about some more goodness, and particularly when it comes to the All-Star voting, and talk about the Padres that made it. But first, I want to take a second to discuss perhaps an even more legendary sponsor. You heard them at the top of the show, right? And that is Booking.com. They're sponsoring today's episode. Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games. And Lord knows, baseball fans, what is something that we always talk about? We want to visit every ballpark, right? It's like kind of like, you know, you like collect coins from every state. That's kind of the vibe that baseball stadiums have. Everybody wants to visit each one. They're all different. They're all unique, including the rivals, including, if you're like me and you live in Jersey, including Boston. I am making potentially a Boston trip in the summer. And including if you're in the Padres zone and you want to visit the Dodgers. Well, guess what? Booking.com helps you out with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay no matter where you are. From hotels that overlook, stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season, and just in general for any U.S. city. Go check it out. Book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. But we're not done, everybody. I also want to take a second to help you out with, what about the tickets? What if you're going to Boston? Maybe you're like me, you want to go to a Red Sox game. What if you're going to LA and you want to, get to a Dodgers game? Well, guess what? You know what app is good for getting the tickets? GameTime, folks. And let me tell you, it is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. And the prices actually go down the closer you get to games. So say you don't know what your schedule is, which frankly, especially the older you get, let's be real, everybody, it could be a little bit tough. You can't always project how free you're going to be. But when that happy hour gets canceled and you're like, man, Matt Waldron's pitching today against the Dodgers, I want to see that. It's in 2 hours. Go check out GameTime because they've got up to the last minute deals. They've got zone deals, all sorts of stuff, lowest prices guaranteed. They take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets and tickets in general, frankly. So go check that out. Last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. They can credit you the difference if you find a better seat in your zone and all sorts of stuff. They show you views from the seats all over the venue, whatever it is. They've got you covered. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. GameTime. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Go check it out. And just like that, we are back, everybody, on the Locked On Padres podcast. Your team every day, free and available on all platforms, thriving and vibing. Let's talk about All-Star. Speaking of vibes, let's talk about the All-Star selections that were announced yesterday. We're not going to talk too much about American League. Maybe we'll save that for, next week, frankly, or the week after, when we actually have to, we have a little bit of time off for the All-Star. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But when it comes to the National League, let's run it through, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, catcher William Contreras selected for the Brewers. Yes, I know I crap on the Brewers a lot, but they have had like two legitimately star level players this year, and that's William Contreras and Christian Yelich, right? William Contreras, at one point, I thought this dude was just going to be like a catcher only, like not a catcher only, like a hitting catcher only, but he's been really good this year, and he's frankly pretty fun to watch, by the way. If you ever catch a Brewers game, which, you all know how I feel about them. If you ever catch one, though, like, it's a fun team to watch. He's got 2.7 F4 this year, 128 WRC+, and his defense hasn't been too bad either. So, like, just a really good catcher. I actually would find it fascinating if the Brewers did the right thing and, like, put him on the trade block, because then it would be like, oh, crap, like, that immediately probably becomes the biggest prize piece in all of baseball if that were to happen. I don't think it'll happen. We still have some time between now and the deadline, but the Brewers, unfortunately, even by their standards of not caring, have been a little bit too good to the point where they're probably not going to trade stuff at the deadline, right? So keep hoping that the Brewers lose, because even if they're first in their division, they still might trade away. And I'm saying that because if Peralta wants to get crazy, you want to go trade for William Contreras? That'd be pretty sick. But it probably won't happen. It's just a pipe dream for me. But anyway, moving on. And also, the runner-up was Luis Campusano of the San Diego Padres. Can you believe that? Shouts to the Padres fans voting. No, I'm just kidding. It was actually Kyle Higashioka who was finished up runner-up for catcher for the National League. I'm just kidding again. It was actually JT Realmuto of the Phillies, which makes sense. First base. Unfortunately, no, it is not our guy, Jake Cronenworth. It is Bryce Harper of the Philadelphia Phillies, obviously. And Padres fans don't need to be reminded. Harper's going to lose, Manny's going to cruise. We're still suffering from that, but he deserves it. He's a stud and, frankly, just a beast to watch, and it's hard not to root for him. At second base was Ketel Marte of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Kind of been one of the only consistent forces they've had this year outside Christian Walker. That's another thing. Christian Walker, one of the most underrated players, by the way, in baseball. I'm sad that he was even a runner-up and close at first base, but Ketel Marte has been amazing and has been carrying that team that has been kind of... They're in the zone that the Padres were like 2 weeks ago, which is that every time they start to look good, they just fall backwards. I'm not out on the D-backs, though, yet. This series will be very huge for them and might dictate where they go going forward, by the way, this upcoming one. And then the second runner-up was Luis Suarez of the San Diego Padres. I don't necessarily know if that was as deserved. I think there might have been some other better second basemen out there this year. But in terms of the National League, second base it's just weird right now, Second base vibes in Major League Baseball just doesn't feel like we have too many amazing ones, especially when it comes to the National League. Although I'm surprised that he finished second in voting, considering that he's 18th among qualified second basemen and wins above replacement. And then the guys who are above him, Bryce Turang, Jonathan India, Nico Horner, right? And frankly, Jake Cronenworth, if you want to count him there, all finished being better at second base if they qualify at that position than Luis Suarez. But who cares? We like it very much. Does he still make the All-Star team? Probably not. I forgot if the rest of the roster is decided by managers. I forgot how MLB All-Star voting works. Or is that just NBA where the managers decide the reserves? I forgot exactly. We'll see. He's just so popular as a player because it's so fun to watch a guy that's just hitting like singles all over the place all the time. So we'll see. But regardless, who cares? Congratulations to that man, Ketel Marte. At third base, no, it is not our guy, and it shouldn't be our guy. It is third baseman Alec Boehm. Obviously, this guy's been a stud this year, and the type of thing that shows you, like, don't give up in your players, by the way. I think this actually relates to you Padres fans. Don't give up. Don't give up. This guy was not very good for a while, and instead, he is 4th in Major League Baseball in total F4 among third basemen and 1st in the National League among third basemen. Really weird. Really weird to see that. It's kind of weird when you look at the overall third base like rankings this year, where guys like Machado, Arenado, Bregman, Riley are much lower than your Jordan Westbergs of the Orioles, your Isaac Paredes, right? Like some Josh Smith, who the Padres are currently playing right now. But funny enough, Manny Machado was the runner-up. I'm learning from MLB.com right now, so he got a lot of votes. That means Padres fans, if there's any one thing we've learned, you had Ariz and Machado finish runners-up. That shows me y'all were still voting and showing your passion, so we love to see that. Absolutely, even if they don't deserve it, because guess what? Who cares? It's an all-star game, and it's 100% exhibition now. By the way, hot take, I kind of liked when it decided home field advantage. Maybe that's just me. Machado, currently right now, he ranks 16th among third basemen and wins above replacement. That doesn't mean that I think he's been absolute garbage and this is a lost season, because like we've talked about, he's been better lately. So hopefully he can keep that up. Moving on though, DH, it's this guy Shohei Ohtani, whatever, move on. But no, in all seriousness, he has been fun to watch. Even as someone like who hates the Dodgers, obviously. I mean, I host a Padres podcast, for crying out loud. He's still been really fun to watch, right? Like, it's just hard to hate the guy. It really is. You hate the Dodgers and you hate seeing that he's on this team, because let's just be real, it would have been so much more fun if he was on a team like Chicago, if he was on a team like the Mariners, you know, instead of a team that he's just like extra fluff to an already great team. That's unfortunate, but nevertheless, that is where we are. Runner-up being Kyle Schwarber, the home run king. Outfield, Christian Yelich of the Milwaukee Brewers. Yes, I know I was telling you guys that there was a distinct, faraway possibility that maybe all the starters in the All-Star game are Padres, but that is not the case this time. But it's okay. And while, yes, I hate the Brewers, Christian Yelich has been 1,000,000% back and deserves credit for that, man, right? Like, this guy has been awesome, and it looked like he was down and out, by the way. I want to say all that. There was a lot of players. There's been some players that have looked like they were down and out in previous years, especially because of injuries, and they've bounced back. Why am I saying this? Well, look, Christian Yelich, these past couple years, just want to give you an idea, right? This is a dude who's been not bad, but the MVP form was seemingly gone for a while. In 2020, 114 WRC+, after being a 170, 160 guy before that. Then 102 the next year. Then 111 the next year, bounces back slightly. Then 122 last year, and this year 161. This man has been back. He's not hitting for his 38, home run power or 40 home run power or anything like that, but he's, stealing a lot of bases. He's got 19. He's playing defense, but he's been hitting so well that it's great. I'm honestly just happy. Like, it's cool. It's never not cool to see stars that bounce back to be stars again, especially when their downfall wasn't supposed to happen so early, right? So shouts to dat boy Christian Yelich, but have no fear. The Padres are here. Next up on the list is that boy, Jurickson Profar. First starter selection, as MLB.com writes. Who saw this one coming? Profar was a highly touted prospect who made his MLB debut at age 19 in 2012, but his career was slow to take off from there, largely due to a shoulder injury that cost him all of the 2014 and 2015 seasons. Again, if you're wondering why Profar didn't pan out as much, that's why. He was really damaged and got really hurt. And Padres fans, if you remember Dinelson Lamet, injuries can really derail a career entirely. Entering the 2024 season, he was a career 239, 322, 383 hitter with no all-star selections to his name, having just signed a one-year deal with San Diego where he was expected to largely be a backup. And instead, he stunned the baseball world with a slash line of 311, 404, 472, earning his first career Midsummer Classic spot. I'm going to be writing about him for Just Baseball soon because I feel like it. We deserve more Profar propaganda. I genuinely, unbiased, do believe that it is the best story, Jurickson Profar, in all of baseball. Not the most exciting player, not the best player, certainly, but I think he's the best story when you're able to just take a step back and look at all those things that article hinted at, and the fact that he's never been this good before. It is so, so beautiful. I'm so freaking happy for him. All the videos of his teammates giving him hugs were great too. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful. I think I might cry. Oh man. And then lastly, Fernando Tatis Jr. earning himself an all-star selection. Thank God the dub stuff over the PEDs seems to be gone. I thought Tatis should have been the starter last year, or have made the team last year, and I think it was dumb, and I think it was based off of his PED thing. But thankfully, he's past that this year. Speaking of Padres outfielders, MLB.com writes, who have bounced back after missing an entire season, Tatis has earned his first All-Star selection since missing all of 22 due to suspension and injury, and the second of his career. Tatis was a shortstop when he first was an All-Star in 21, but this is his first selection as an outfielder, thanks to his 821 OPS, along with his arm strength that ranks in the 99th percentile of MLB. They don't mention that his defense overall, outs above average, hasn't been good, but nonetheless, super happy to have him there. Has Tatis played in an All-Star game, by the way? Has he? I forgot. I think he played in 2021. I'm like 99% sure that he played in 2021, and he tried to... Yes, because I remember he tried to get the hit off of Ohtani. He was trying so hard. You could tell he wanted to get the hit off of Ohtani. Kind of wild that in these 6 seasons that he'll only have played in one All-Star game. Pretty wild, right? Because of suspensions and because of injuries at the wrong time, especially this year. So he won't be there. We're probably going to get a replacement, but nonetheless, it's still so cool to see him get the nomination, right? Runners up, Nick Castellanos of the Phillies, which is hilarious. Brandon Marsh of the Phillies, which is also hilarious. Although Brandon Marsh has been okay. Not Casty. But Teoscar Hernandez, the last one. Is it possible that Jackson Merrill makes the All-Star game? Absolutely. I think the more people start talking about him, the more they look at the fact that among National League outfielders, he's still up there in wins above replacement, and he's still one of the best, right? So I'm not saying that your Teoscars don't deserve it. They certainly do. And frankly, I like Teoscar Hernandez. He's got good vibes. I've rooted for him before, especially when he was on the Mariners. But in terms of outfielders in the National League that are like healthy and playing right now, Jurickson Profar, Brandon Nimmo, Jackson Merrill, Fernando Tatis Jr., Brenton Doyle, those are the top 5. We'll see if Merrill might miss it because of maybe they're going to want to have a Teoscar in there. Maybe they're going to want to have a Brandon Nimmo in there, and most importantly, Brenton Doyle, because you need a representative from every team. A rule, by the way, that I think is stupid. Let me just be very clear. It's also possible that Ryan McMahon gets it, who's been breaking out this year, by the way, low-key. I don't know, I'm just kind of happy for him. The Rockies aren't a threat, so is it okay if I say I'm happy that they have some players play well for them? Is that okay? That doesn't make me a traitor, right? Everyone, leave a comment. Let me know. I'm happy for them. It must be tough. And my guy Paul of Locked On Rockies does such a great job that I wanted to have some stuff to be excited about. I think there's a slight possibility he makes it, but because of Nimmo and because of the Brenton Doyle thing that I just mentioned, maybe he doesn't make it. But also, who cares? He's been so good. I don't care whatsoever, right? Like, he's been so amazing. He might still win Rookie of the Year. He might. We'll have to see. But all in all, really pleased with the All-Star selections. There's probably some other guys that are going to make it. I imagine Robert Suarez is going to make the team as well. Maybe there's a possibility that Jay Cronenworth makes it. Maybe there's a possibility that Dylan Cease makes it. Maybe even Matt Waldron would be sick if he made it. I would love if Matt Waldron made it. Why not, guys? Who else throws knuckleballs? Come on, put him in there. That'd be great. But all in all, deserved and great. I'm glad that Profar made it. I think that everyone is also keying into the story, and I'm glad that Tatis is showing that he seems to have escaped the bad reputational things of the PED suspension. Although I've talked about that before, about how weird it is that for some reason PEDs is the only thing us fans, and I don't mean necessarily you or me in particular, but just us fans, we ignore all the other stuff athletes do, but oh no, PEDs is like, now we're taking a stand. I'm just saying. But with that all being said, everybody, that about does it for today's edition of the Locked On Padres podcast, the only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Stay tuned for tomorrow's episode when we recap today's July 4th game, as well as talk about maybe some more All-Star stuff, but also talk about trade deadline stuff. We'll talk about this D-back series as well. Lots to discuss, lots of vibes still to come along the way. And until that next time, stay safe and, of course, stay faithful. My Fire Faithful homies, take care.